Welcome to everyone. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. The topic is speech. Let's begin. As educational representatives, we must be aware of the fact that the main teacher's job is to impart knowledge, which is generally transmitted orally. Orality is our working tool. That is the reason why this topic deserves to be analyzed. As Winston Churchill said, the power of rhetoric is not something you get instantly, but something you must cultivate. He explained that temperament and talent come from the orator, but he also said that we must cultivate this gift through practice. As we have mentioned before, the orator must cultivate this gift, but firstly, we should analyze the term oratory. It is a social practice, a form of action between people, which is articulated from the linguistic use within a context. In other words, it is the art of public speaking, especially in a formal and eloquent manner. Now we are going to deal with the characteristic that a good speech should have. In fact, it should be concrete and tangible, and it can be compared to the sap of a tree. If it possesses an efficient and equitative system of distribution, not only will the tree have life and projection, but it will be a model of its species as well. Apart from the characteristic mentioned above, a good speech should be based on some principles which are totally necessary to build the connection between the orator and the audience. For instance, it is important that the orator get acquainted with what he or she is talking about. That is to say, the orator should transmit credibility. The result of the lecture always has a consequence, an outcome, and it can be both negative or positive. We call this consequence political cost. There are three relevant aspects which the orator should take into account at the moment of the creation of the oral speech. The three aspects are unity, variety, and movement. So let's analyze the structure of the speech, which needs to be organized into three basic parts: exordium or introduction, body, medium or development, and peroratio or conclusion. Aristotle already said that the beginning of a discourse is more than half of the whole. In this part, the orator begins building an imaginary bridge between the audience and him or her. There are three different types of introductions. Introduction for insinuation or instruction, where the orator begins talking moderately and methodically, introducing the audience to the central topic. Then exordio outburst. It is an abrupt and unexpected beginning. This strategy is used to impress the audience, and the clear objective is to mobilize the people's feeling and emotion. Then direct introduction. The beginning has not preparative because the orator considers that the audience possesses enough knowledge on the central topic that he or she is going to deliver. And pompous introduction, it is used only in occasions where solemnity is required. For example, when the orator starts enunciating who is present: authorities, teachers, students, etc. The core of the discourse is where the argument is exposed. The organization of the ideas is essential in a speech. Apart from being organized, a good speech must be related through linguistic elements in order to achieve internal cohesion. Oral communicative manifestations are not always natural. They usually require a high level of production. These manifestations also require our body manifestations because we also speak through our body. Facial expressions, movement of our body, hands. In linguistics, this feature is known as paralanguage. The orator should domain the oral verbal activity, and he should control the use of other elements such as gestures, tone, volume, and intensity of the voice. It is interesting to highlight what Aristotle said about orators. They could influence their audience by means of the persuasive power of their character, thus awakening the audience emotions and showing apparent proof. In fact, rhetoric deals with probable matters and with argumentative principles, and these principles may be the conductors to the truth. The argumentation has a clear objective, which is not only to persuade the audience, but to create in them a disposition to the action. To achieve this purpose, it is necessary that the orator can create a mental scheme before the creation of his or her speech. This mental scheme should cover the topic, the type of audience, the clear objectives, the content, and the form and strategy that he or she would use.
Never mind, because you are doing excellently. Excellently. Go on.
Yes.
Go on.
Thank you.
Excellently.
Well, I include this slide because this graphic is very clear, and here we have these three circles that, well, here is represent the writer, the audience, the subject, and behind these three big circles we have the context, and here we have the relationship between each one. When within the context of rhetoric, we can distinguish linguistic devices. These are instruments used by the speaker or writer in order to create blocks of information. These blocks of information have to cause impact in the audience, and they should become interesting for the audience. And we can find three different big groups: connectors, devices of emphasis, and rhetoric figures. Well, to conclude with linguistic devices, it is necessary to mention rhetorical figures. This interesting device is connected with the orator's thoughts and how he or she presents and organizes their thoughts and feelings throughout the speech. Rhetorical figures collaborate with the linguistic representation, helping to the speech comprehension and providing elegance, color, and strength to expression. This rhetorical figure represents a wide field where the orator can find a great variety of useful devices. And we can exemplify some of them. For example, rhetorical question. It's a common resource used in oratory. The speaker formulates a question in order to present a topic since another perspective, impacting the audience and making them think about it. For example, here we have the example. Do you want a total war? And if it were necessary, do you want a more radical war than today we could not even imagine? This is an example of rhetorical question. And finally, allusion is another useful device where the orator refers to a known fact, a thought, sorry, and sorry. Allusion is another useful device where the orator refers to a known fact through a quick reference. Now we will watch a video and we will be able to appreciate how Obama used this resource in one of his speeches. Okay. Tell me if you can
So
hear.
let us mark this day with remembrance.
Here.
Señalemos este día en nuestro
Of
recuerdo.
who we are and how
¿Quién
far
somos
we have traveled.
nosotros? ¿Y hasta dónde hemos llegado
In
en
the year
nuestro
of
viaje?
America's birth,
En el día
coldest of
del
months,
nacimiento de
a
América,
small
en
band
el
of
mes más
patriots
frío,
huddled by
una pequeña
dying
banda de
campfires on the
patriotas
shores of an icy river.
acampó
The capital
a
was
orillas de un
abandoned.
río helado.
The enemy
La
was
capital estaba
advancing.
abandonada.
The
El enemigo
snow was
avanzaba.
stained with blood.
La nieve los rodeaba.
At a moment when the outcome of our revolution was most in doubt,
Y cuando todos dudaban del resultado de la revolución, los padres de nuestra nación pidieron que se leyeran estas palabras
let it be
a las
told to the
gentes.
future world that in
Decidle
the
al mundo
depth of winter, when
que en
nothing
mitad
but
del
hope
invierno,
and virtue could
cuando lo único que
survive,
nos mantiene
that the
vivos
city and
es
the
la
country,
esperanza y la virtud,
alarmed at one
la
common
ciudad
danger,
y
came
el
forth to meet
país
it.
tienen que seguir adelante, unidos.
America,
América,
in the face of our common dangers, in this winter of
al
our
enfrentarse a
hardship,
nuestros riesgos
let us remember
comunes,
these timeless
tiene
words.
que recordar estas palabras
With hope and
inmemoriales.
virtue, let us brave
La
once
esperanza,
more the
la
icy
virtud,
currents
nos
and
tiene que
endure
mantener
what
unidos.
storms
Tienen
may
que
come.
resistir ante
Let it be
aquellas
said
tormentas que
by our
veremos en el
children's
futuro.
children that when we were
Dejemos que los
tested, we
niños de nuestros
refused
niños
to let this journey end.
vean que
That we did
nos
not
hemos
turn back,
negado
nor did we falter.
a
And
seguir
with eyes fixed on the
diciendo
horizon
que este
and
viaje tiene
God's
que
grace
acabar.
upon us, we carried forth
Con la
that
gracia de
great gift
Dios
of freedom
seguiremos
and
llevando
delivered it
ese
safely
testigo hacia adelante
to
y lo
future
entregaremos
generations.
a las generaciones
Thank
del
you.
futuro.
God bless you.
Gracias y que Dios os
God bless the
bendiga.
United States of
Y que
America.
Dios bendiga a los Estados Unidos de América.
Well, here Barack Obama refers to a past episode, and this is a clear example of an allusive figure. It aims to captivate the public by alluding to former inhabitants who fought
for the country. Well,
So let us mark this day with remembrance.
and well, to finish with my presentation, I bring you two phrases that resume all we have talked before. Well, the phrases are in Spanish, but well, to take into consideration, and it said, aquel que conoce el poder de la palabra presta mucha atención a su conversación. Vigila las reacciones causadas por sus palabras, pues sabe que ellas no retornarán al mismo punto sin haber causado su efecto. The other phrase is, also we have to talk about it, truth and persuasion, the basis of a good speech. El objetivo de la oratoria no solo en la verdad, sino la persuasión. Well, that's all, and thank you so much for being here.
Aristotle, there were 4 cardinal virtues that were necessary for an ordinary citizen to be considered an orator. The 4 cardinal virtues were prudence, justice, courage, and temperance. Another important element in a successful orator is the art of being persuasive. The first lesson that we learned about life is that we have the ability to get things done. After we deliver our speech, the auditory will see and believe in something new, and here's where the real test occurs. We need to be effective and lead the audience into action. At the time of the speaking, we need to be aware of the orator's fear. It is a fact that on some occasions, shyness inhibits the orator. This is the case of mine, for example, when I must deliver an oral presentation in front of teachers, partners, or even when I have to give a technical explanation to my clients at work. Is there a way of overcoming this situation? Luckily, there is. There are a series of methods that are particularly useful to try to simplify the situation and to shift attention away from ourselves. We can choose a theme real to life for us in order to create a supportive mental attitude. We need to prepare exhaustively our speech in order that our ideas have unity, order, progression, transition, and coherence. It is important to work on the speech, and once we have memorized it, it will be time to speak and listen ourselves due to the voice and the ear stimulates our brain positively. Additionally, there are 3 mental attitudes that the orator can take to promote psychological confidence. The attitude of longing for distributing, the attitude of desire to fight, and the attitude of speaking for a fair cause. There also exist 4 methods of psychological compensation that the orator can try in order to reinforce his emotional complex. The most recommended methods are compensation after directly attacking the failing, then compensations for development of other virtues, compensation for helping the neediest, and compensation for defending a fair cause or institution. Finally, the final step is to minimize the risk. We need to know in detail as much as possible the auditory. Is it a primary group where all their members share a great emotional contact, or is it a secondary group where their members get into this group voluntarily? What is important to know is that the audiences share 3 general psychological laws. The first one is that they confirm a psychological unity, where all individualities are left behind and the suggestion and the group is transmitted between all the participants. The second one has to do with the intellectual diminution that the whole group suffers just from being affected by the suggestions previously mentioned. The ability to reflect, comprehend, and to understand is inferior to the ones that to every one of the listeners may have individually. The third one is the emotional prevalence, where predominates emotion over reason. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for listening to me.
Well, Juliana, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great. Yeah. Congratulations to both of you. You did very well. In the case of Silvina, you were very academic, really. Yes, in the way you presented it. The PowerPoint was excellent, really excellent. And as regards time, for you to know, it took you 19 minutes.